Okay, guys, so this week, we've been talking about sociological approaches to mental health, and we've talked about structural strain theory, we've discussed the stress theory, we've looked at labeling theory, and today I want us to look at the life course approach to mental health. The life course, the term life course includes lifespan development and a person's life cycle. I think life course is often preferred because there are not always clear-cut or very linear chronological trajectories through a person's life, which replicates themselves with each generation. So, it's not linear, so it changes. So these trajectories, our life's trajectories keep changing. So, what is the life course approach to mental illness? The life course approach, or the life course epidemiological approach, because it's an epidemiological approach to mental illness, is interdisciplinary and it draws on foundational perspectives from sociology, neurosciences, and the psychological lifespan, or what a lot of textbooks would regard as a developmental psychopathology perspective. Now, a life course approach to mental illness focuses on the interaction of social and biological factors in the production of mental illness. And not only that, it also looks at its consequences on a person over their lifespan. Like I said, it looks at the interaction of social and biological factors and how these are produced or how these interact in producing mental illness from when a person is a child up until when the person dies. And it looks at it across generations so that we can trace patterns and see whatever changes that have occurred within a particular generation. So these perspectives are often applied to understand the distribution and the causes and consequences of mental illness in human populations. So a combination of environmental and biological factors. Please don't forget that. Now the thing is that the major difference between the life course epidemiology of mental illness and psychology or psychiatry is its focus on populations and the implication for public health and prevention. While others don't really focus on prevention, the life course approach focuses on prevention, on how we can understand the patterns of mental illness and its broader underpinnings so that we can prevent it so that it doesn't become an epidemic, right? So if you look at in post-industrial societies, people from similar backgrounds and sometimes born a few years apart can experience some fundamentally different lives due to changes or inequities in their social lives, political lives, economic lives, and other situations which impact the quality of their lives. So a life course approach to mental illness focuses on the relationship between social factors and the biological. It also looks at the relationship between the individual and the society. It looks at the relationship between history and the present. So a life course approach looks at a lot of factors. It looks at a lot of things when it comes to managing mental illness. Now, three major factors underpin the life course approach to mental illness. The first is the link between early life circumstances and mental illness in later life stages. So here, a lot of research indicates that mental illnesses that we previously perceived to emerge in adulthood actually have their roots in childhood. We've talked about early life socialization from age 0 to 7 is very crucial. 7 to 12 important, then 12 to about 15, during those periods, that's when the major life trauma occur that tend to now to lay the foundation for mental health instability in future years. So as individuals age and grow into adults, they develop mental health issues, and most of those mental health issues are rooted in their early life. Early childhood factors such as childhood adversity have been linked to new onsets of mental disorders throughout the life course. Now, a good number of adults with mental illness, studies have shown, would have experienced certain signs or symptoms of mental instability by age 15. You look at some of the myths and the facts we talked about, you would notice that this also came up. So the second factor is the interplay or the interrelationship between the genetic conditions and the environment. So what is happening on your inside and how what is happening on your inside is being altered by your environment, the environment you live. So, and this would include the combination of biological or genetic measures into existing cohorts through technological advancements. Right. So the third factor is an expansion of understanding of causal pathways. In medical sociology, we call them causal pathways, or those mechanisms, those pathways, or those processes that sort of enable mental illness. And these are external conditions which sort of open us up so that psychosocial stress sort of become embedded in our genes. So, for instance, if you look at our epigenetic mechanisms, they are known to regulate gene function without altering the underlying DNA sequence. But what I find rather interesting is that these epigenetic mechanisms are also known to change in response to our physical, biological, and social exposures in a manner that influences the long-term regulation of gene expression. So to put it very clearly, it means that our biological makeup tends to change in response to something like prolonged poverty or prolonged trauma, which further influences our gene expression in old age. So, to sum it up, the life course approach for me is my favorite because it just enables one to make sense of the beginning of mental health symptoms and how one can actually combine biomedicine and social determinants in looking after their health.